Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have Fatima Alabi. Fatima was not much of a reader growing up, but that was until she came across the trilogy by E.L. James titled 50 Shades of Grey, at a time when she needed an escape from reality. At the time, she was 19 years old and homeless, secretly squatting at the office building where she interned. She became completely wrapped up in the love story between the characters, reading all three novels from the series in under a week. After that experience, a new ambition grew inside her, and that was the desire to write a novel just as captivating that would turn a non-reader like she once was into a page-turner that she became, and to also help anyone going through a difficult phase in life to escape their reality by immersing themselves in her story. Fatima, how are you today?
I am well, thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me. How are you today?
I'm awesome. Thank you. And I want to say a good evening to you, actually, because you're in where now?
London. Yes, that's
That
correct.
that is amazing. So that's the furthest distance I think I've talked to somebody at one
Ah,
point in time.
thank goodness for technology. That's
I know it's kind of cool, right? I've
uh,
got that opportunity quite a bit for various people around the country and a couple different countries, but first time across the pond. So I gotta say it at least once.
I'm glad to be the first.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, you'll go on that list. Actually, I think that you're the first. No, you're second person from there. I don't know. I have to look through my whole roster. There's other people who were
Don't kid it, Ryan. I'm going to be the first. Okay,
okay.
let's
You're the
just keep.
first. You're the first. You're the first on location.
I like that.
Okay.
Let's
Okay. Awesome. So we're here today to talk about your book. What is the title of your book?
So my book is called The Strings Between Love and Race.
I love it. And what is the synopsis on it? What's it about?
So it's about a girl called Mina, who is a Nigerian British girl who falls in love with a South Korean British boy. They get separated, and after 10 years, they reunite, but he is now a K pop star. And if you know anything about K pop, they're usually not allowed to date. And there's sort of a bit of discrimination about, foreigners, especially Black foreigners. So, yeah, you're in for a real ride with this
Oh,
book.
interesting. I did not know that about K-pop at all.
I wanted to sort of break that barrier of one, stopping the artist from dating. Like, how could you stop someone from dating so they could please millions of women or fans in general around the world that they don't know for years and years and years just to keep in, the royalties and the money coming in? It's crazy to me. And the second thing is the whole thing about being darker. Even sometimes Koreans, between Koreans as well, they discriminate over the darker skinned people, like in their community. It's crazy. It really is crazy to me. Lately, they're more accepting, to be fair, and it's not a thing that happens just in Korea. It happens around the world. But for me, I really wanted to break that barrier by putting two unlikely people together in unlikely situations and see what happens. Let it all explode, and yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
that changes people's mindset.
Yeah. Kind of those social pioneers.
Exactly. Let's start
Yeah.
making movement in a different way. And I think there's a lot of black females that are into K-pop and like K-dramas and things like that. I wanted to have the fantasy come true in some way as well. Live like vicariously through Mina. And then the thing about Mina is beyond her relationship with June, she has her own personal struggles. She has a bit of struggle in the beginning of the book with her sister because of an incident that happened back in the day. It sort of created a rift between them, and she started more or less isolating herself from the world to avoid that situation happening the second time. And which is part of the reasons why she avoids June, because he attracts a lot of attention and she's trying to keep attention from herself. So we see the friction of two people with completely different sort of outlook to the world
Right.
come together and how they blend. Yeah. So it's really interesting how that works out.
Oh my gosh. So the interactions with Mina and her background, are you pulling from, is this your imagination? Is this some parts real life? Is it just what you have observed? You don't have to go in too detail, but I'm just, I'm
No,
that
I
person
understand.
asking questions.
It's, it's massively, I spoke to someone about this yesterday. It's massively different elements because how I became a fan of K-pop in the first place was so different. I was previously a fashion designer. just putting it out there. And while I had a client, she came into my store and I was measuring her and stuff, and she was talking about K-pop and BTS was coming to the UK for the first time, and she was so excited. And I'm like, she was like 28 years old. I'm like, seriously, honey, like grow up. How old are you? And I judged her really harshly, but I just thought, put it out, because back then K-pop was on an uprising and everyone was banging on about BTS and all these people, but I didn't want to fall into the bandwagon. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not going to fall for it.
Right.
A few years down the line, I discover K-dramas, completely fall in love with Korean language, the culture, the food, everything, and immersed myself in these stories. And then people started judging me the way I judged that girl. And I was like, oh, tables have turned. And I sort of realized, I guess, my mistake with judging her so harshly. And I created Mina to be a fangirl as a way to apologize to that girl and
Oh,
also educate people that fangirls are more than just girls that are into aesthetically pleasing boys.
right.
Or there's a lot more to it. I did a lot of research into fans around the world. What have they achieved with this whole fandom? Some of them have raised millions for charities that these K-pop idols support. And I'm like, it's crazy. Some of them have made lifelong friendships from meeting each other online.
Right.
There was a particular girl I saw, was actually a Black lady. She had cancer and was ill in the hospital, and listening to the music and stuff gave her hope, kept her feeling, just hopeful of the whole situation. And she got better and she got more supportive of them. And I'm like, it's crazy how much these boys, or just K-pop in general and music, has done for these people. It's more than just looks, and the music itself is gone beyond that. It's transcended in so many beautiful ways. And I wanted to put that into the book. And
Right.
that's how Mina was created.
So
But when it
music is
comes
a big
to
element
struggle,
then.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. But the way her struggles were created, funny enough, when I first wrote Mina, she was a happy-go-lucky girl. She had no issues. Everything was handy dandy. And I got a friend to read it, and she was like, "Why is she so happy?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" She's like, "She's too happy. Like that's a snooze fest." And I was like, "Oh, okay. You want drama? I'll give you drama." So that's when I switched it up and like took away a few elements, added a few more like struggles, and it gave her body, it gave her depth. And I love that about the story. And that's why you need honest friends in your lives. People that can tell you the truth.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It gets very boring when someone's just super happy and perky and no problems ever,
Bro,
ever, ever. Yeah, unless it's like the, I don't know, descent into, the opposite spectrum, maybe. But yeah, it's just not realistic. So when you have someone who's everyone's got flaws, and that's how you can make it more relatable. And I love how you incorporated music as a way of, bonding. And then also it is a form of healing too. People get mental, emotional, and sometimes oddly enough, I don't know how it would work, but even physical healing from hearing music. Like I think even like patients with Alzheimer's and dementia, close to the end, they don't remember their kids' names, but all of a sudden you put a song on from their childhood, they
mm,
know the rhythm, they know the song, the words. It's very powerful. So I mean, music is a very powerful thing to bring people together.
absolutely. The
Yeah.
main element I used for it was if Mina was a fan, she was one in a million of people. So she wasn't seen.
Hmm.
She was a part of a crowd. And that's how she could escape, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Well, instead of being the actual person on stage where you
Yeah.
get all the attention. So that's how I reversed it to she's escaping by being a fan and being one with a million. And yeah,
Hmm.
that's another element I added for sure.
Blending in the crowd.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I've kind of we already kind of dove into the inspiration, what sparked the drive to write. I mean, so what what made you kind of go, I'm going to write something now? Because obviously you read E.L. James's series, and it's one thing to resonate with a story, but it's another thing to go, I'm going to take what I just read and put it, resonate that and build something of my own. Like what made you want to do that? Have you always had that kind of secret drive to write, or you just discover it then?
To be fair, when I had that situation happen, I was not much of a reader at all. I had
Right.
never read any book to the end at that point. So for a book to make me like, I was one of those people like in class where they used to always have like a spelling bee, and if you get the most answers wrong, you could keep standing. I was always standing. So I always felt like I am just not like the intellectual person. I can never be with those people, if you know what I mean. So when I read this book, I thought, wow, something made me want to be more intellectual or want to be more of a reader. And escaping my troubles at that time, I promised myself to do the same for other people because I know what that gave me. It really helped me just see beyond my reality, and I escaped into this character's minds. So after that, I kept it on the back burner. I just wrote a list of things I wanted to achieve, and that was one of it. And I kept it on the back burner. And the thing that led me to finally write, funny enough, is actually fashion.
Oh, really?
Yes, I had to quit fashion because I hated the lack of control
Oh, okay.
creatively. Because when you have a client, you have to do what they want to do, not what you like to do. It was not fun. It just sucked out the joy from what I loved about fashion. And I'm more like a freelancer. I like to do what I do. If you like it, you buy it. If you don't like it, it's fine. So I thought, oh, with books, if I write it, it's done. If they like it, they can buy it and read it. If they don't like it, it's not for you then, and it's okay. So I thought, oh, finally, this is the time to take on this chapter of writing a book. And that's how it led me to that. And I was like, yeah, finally, let's do it. Yeah, this
Amazing.
was right after lockdown, we all know what lockdown was. It
Hmm.
was, to be fair, it was a horrible time for the world, and I really sympathized. But for an introvert like me, it was heaven. Whew. I got to stay home all the time, watch my K dramas in peace. It was a great time. But after all of that, I got like demotivated. I stopped fashion. I was demotivated to do anything. My older brother pulled me up and he's like, Fatima, you're always a creative person. You have something going on with your life all the time outside of work. What are you doing? I thought, what am I doing for real? Like, I took like 2 years out after fashion. I was really traumatized by clients. Honestly, it was really bad. Then I thought, okay, this is the time to do the book stuff. And I didn't have enough time because when you think about writing a book, it's daunting. How am I going to write a whole book? It just seems impossible. So I asked myself, when do I have time in my day to write? And the only time I had was my way to work. But what was I doing on my way to work? Watching K dramas. So I said, if I sacrifice that and just start writing an hour a day, who knows? I might be done in 6 months. And I
Yeah.
was done in 6 months. On my way to work every morning on the bus, I'll have my music in my ears and I'll just be writing away. I liked the fact that the bus was moving, the people around me, I had music on, but I'm in another world, just typing away. I really enjoyed that process. Absolutely loved it.
Wow. So you can really just hone in. That's a pretty impressive talent because not a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah,
can do that.
yeah, I love that. Like there's
Yeah.
certain scenes I would write. I remember where I was at that point on the bus. Like emotional ones where I would even cry writing, and I'm like, oh, I look out the window and I'm like, oh, so this is where I was. Honestly, so wholesome. There's so many people where it's like it's a different feeling when you're in a crowd, when you're somewhere else. It's like you transported your mind elsewhere, but you're around people. I love that. Absolutely.
Wow. While people are walking by, what is she crying about? What's going on? We need to get her help. What's wrong? Anyone ever
I had
tap
to
you on the
actually
shoulder
check
and
and I
like, are
wipe
you
my eyes
okay?
quickly because I was worried like people are gonna think I'm having a meltdown on the bus. But yeah, I love that experience.
They
Absolutely
might have
love
just
that.
leave you alone then. It's like she just needs some alone time. Just give her some space.
So, oh boy, I feel bad for those people. Maybe the bus driver thought, oh, should I pull over?
Oh my gosh, that's pretty cool. So I gotta ask about the homelessness. So you hung out, you were squatting in the building you were interning in. How did that even, okay, first off, how did it happen? How did you handle the challenges? And then when did that part in your life end?
At that point, I had a living situation that was not the best. But I'm the kind of person, if you try to put me in a box, I would rather be homeless.
Oh, okay.
I value my independence so much, and I don't like to be controlled by anyone. I think everybody have a right to like just basic humanity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, I walked out of a bad situation with two carrier bags. I hate the thought of it, but literally two carrier bags of my stuff. And the people I worked with didn't know. So I just hid it somewhere in the office, and it was a 24 hours building. So there was
Oh,
always things going on. Yeah. And they had like a bathroom at the top. So every morning before anyone comes in, I'll quickly take a shower, change my clothes, and then come back down like nothing happened. Crazy, right? Even when I got the books, like because the first book, at that point there was a lot of hype about 50 Shades of Grey and what it was about. And so, someone that worked at the office was like, oh, she has a copy, but she doesn't know what the hype is all about. And I'm like, oh, can I have your copy? And she was like, yeah, of course. She gave it to me. When I read the first one, I was so impatient. I wanted the second and third. I took my little bit of money that I had saved up for food and I went to go buy the second and the third one because I was more curious than hungry. Forget food. I need to see what happens next. So yeah, it was a really fun. It was weird. It was traumatic, but I escaped a lot. I watched a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows, I read books just to escape the four walls I was
Yeah.
stuck in. But yeah, it didn't last too long after that. After that, I had the lady that actually gave me the book was having a baby, and she was like, "Oh, do you want to be my nanny?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." It was
Oh,
supposed to be for 6 weeks, and I stayed for 6 years. So yeah, she
wow.
wanted to leave, but I had to fly back away and find another
Yeah.
one.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so that was a choice of self-preservation.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So where did you sleep then?
So they had a couch in the office, and I would
Oh my.
sleep on it. Yeah,
Did anybody
crazy.
know you were there sleeping?
Eventually, the person that hired me to become an intern, Mr. Morusa, awesome guy, he always made, when he found out, he just made sure I was fed. He did his best to support me, listen to me, just talk and share my concerns and struggles. And eventually, I moved on to something better. So it was what it was, but it was a
Yeah.
time that built something in me that has made the woman I am today. I reflected on this the other day and I thought, if I was never homeless, I would not be an author today. How crazy is that?
That's nuts.
Like, you have to look at I guess, the good and the bad. You achieve something, you build resistance, you learn to
Yes.
be stronger than what you were. So
Yeah, kind of
that's
build
what it
that
is.
resilience in you a little bit. And because writing a book is not easy. It's simple, but it's hard. It's simple, but it's not easy, if that makes any sense at all. So if you dealt
Absolutely.
with that, you're surviving, and then you're finally like, well, I could do that. I can scribble some words down on a page and enough times to make a fat book. I can definitely do that.
You can challenge yourself more when you've been through, I guess,
Yeah,
worse
yeah.
situations. Yeah.
So obviously that was a huge life influence, but has it influenced your writing? Like have you taken scenes or experiences from that and put it into like Mina and her experiences?
More emotionally, because I didn't realize I was writing sort of my own personality traits to a certain point. And then I had my younger brother read it and he was like, "Oh, that's very like you." And I was like, "Oh, it is." There's something I do, and I didn't realize I did that, was whenever I have a challenge where I have to choose between myself or choose someone I love, or should I say choose to protect myself or choose to protect someone I love, or give up myself for someone I love, I would give up myself first and too easily.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, Amina was doing the same thing, which is what she needs to learn to stop doing. And I was like, oh, interesting. So I'm growing and learning and healing through her own story. Because at certain times I'll watch a show or read a book and see the character begin to, if I saw myself there, I'll be like, yeah, I'll do the same thing. I'll give up myself. And I'm like, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't give up yourself. There are ways to still win and have the person you love still be around. You
Hmm.
just have to compromise, I guess. Some things you wouldn't have it 100%, but you can still try. So yeah, I'm learning to not let myself go first, like Mina does. Hopefully she learns the same thing, but we'll see.
Oh yes. Well, it sounds like it's kind of a self-reflection project with writing
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely.
Especially when you can focus on one character. I can see it be harder with multiple characters because you have to split your time
Absolutely.
amongst them. But one honing on one person, and is it a narrative? Is it
Yes.
first person? Okay, so yeah, even that is even more personal. So, and you can really hone. I don't know how you couldn't. You're channeling your own interests, dislikes, likes,
Yep.
experiences right into her because we talked about someone who's super happy is not necessarily relatable. So
Exactly.
someone who hasn't dealt with challenges, everyone's like, they haven't done anything in their life. They've had
Oh,
a challenge-free life. What? We relate to those people who have been kicked down and then got back up and like, well, I'm going to figure this out and make it work.
yep.
So yeah, that way way better, I think, as a reader, definitely.
Exactly. For the reader, when you see what they've been through and then you see them win, it's like, oh, yes, I know their struggles. So
Yeah.
you feel as good as they would in that moment. So yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So now, are you a full-time writer now, or are you doing something along with your writing?
I wish and I hope I get to that point where I'm a full-time writer. That would be awesome. But there's one
Ooh.
wish I had, which is coming true as of tomorrow, which I'm excited for, is I promised myself I would write my second book on holiday.
Oh,
I'm doing so, and I'm so excited. I was hoping to move somewhere and then write and then move somewhere else, but small wins. Let's take what we can, you know?
yes. Now, and what you told me earlier before I hit record, but where are you traveling on holiday?
I'm going to Venice. I'm so
Oh
excited.
man.
I hope it's not too cold though. But yeah, very excited.
Yeah, I've been one time. The one time I went, it was pouring rain.
What month
So,
was it? Do you remember?
oh, making me think a while back. April?
Oh, okay. I'm good. Hopefully.
April? Yeah, it wasn't November.
Spring.
It was
Spring.
April. Yeah. It
Okay.
was only that one day because the next day it was beautiful out.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Hopefully
Yeah.
there's no flooding. So I'm
Yeah.
good.
I'm crossing my fingers for you because I'm hoping you'll get a lot of so you're gonna go to Venice and you're gonna write your second book there.
Oh, I'm already almost done. I'll say I'm
Oh,
quarter way done.
great.
Yeah, I sort of overwrote the first time because it was my first time writing.
Yeah.
I went too far, and it's like they were like, "Oh yeah, you have too many words," and I'm like, "I do." So I had to sort of find a new ending. So that I didn't have a quarter of the second book done. Then I've continued that, so I'm almost done. I'm almost done. So yeah, I'm excited though. The one thing about writing the second book is the pressure of the first. I
Mhm.
had a lot of great reviews. I thought this book was predominantly for younger female. Wrong. I've had more men read this book, funny enough, and all of them had been a fan of this book. And I'm like, I would never have pegged men yet to be a fan of it. The great thing about it is it's a coming of age story. We've all been young at some point, or some of us are currently young, and some of us will go to that stage eventually.
Mhm.
So it's a book that transcends to any age group. And I think anyone really, my older brother that I was telling you about earlier, biggest critic. When I say he's so blunt, honestly, sometimes I'm like, don't even comment on my pictures because I don't want to hear your opinion on it. He then read this book, the first three chapters, and he called me like within a second and a half, and he said, "You know what? Hands down, this is really good." And I'm like, "From you? I don't need anybody else to tell me it's good. If you said it, it's
Wow.
good." But I had my younger sister read it as well. He was like, "Why are you giving it to her? It's not her genre. It's not her genre." And I'm like, calm down. Like, and then when he read it, he was saying it's not his genre. He was doing me a favor. Here we go. He asked me for the full thing, and I'm like, look at you. If I can win him over, I have no problem.
Yeah, I
So
feel like
yeah,
that's the best way to do it is to find someone
yeah,
who's not in your genre and it's like, would you read this? And yes,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
that's
But then the
that's really
problem with
good.
that is writing the second one. It's a lot of pressure because I'm like, every word I write is it good enough? Is it gonna match the first one? Will I get the same? Would I get the same reviews? I'm so worried. Sometimes I'm writing, and I'm like, wow, this was rubbish. You need to start again. And I'm like, Fatima, stop. The book you have now for the first one wasn't this draft when you
Mhm.
start. The first drafts are never perfect, and it's okay. Just keep writing, and then you can go back and build and make it better, which is how you came across the first review. So it's okay. I'm reminding myself this. It's hard, but I keep reminding myself.
Hmm. Everything's in phases, and it's so hard. You almost have to separate yourself from the first book and the second book. And the beautiful part about writing is just like you said, you can come in drafts. It's not like a painting where you do one brushstroke wrong, or a sculptor,
Yeah,
you screw up one piece of the marble, the chipping, and you've just completely ruined it. It is, I screwed up a word, I circle the word and say pick better word later, and you can keep working, and then you come back to that and fix it. So
absolutely.
it's kind of a redeeming quality for writers. And even and 10 years from now, when you've gotten, probably, I don't know how many books you're planning on writing, bunches and bunches, you go back to your first and you're like, I can improve upon this. Or you
Mm,
use it as a gauge because you're always constantly getting better. So that's what I'm using it for. I'm using it as a gauge. Look at where I was and look where I'm at now. It's a beautiful thing about writing. You can always update and draft.
so true. So true.
So when you were writing your book, so that was strictly on the way to work for an hour.
Yeah.
That was including with like now, were you on the computer? Were you handwriting?
I was on my phone. So you have the Word document on like
Oh
online now.
my
So you can sort
gosh,
of do,
on your
yeah,
phone?
yeah, on my phone. I wrote the whole thing, over 100K words on my phone.
No
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Uh,
on my
uh,
phone.
did your eyes like absolutely kill you?
Not really, because it was like a rush. I knew I had a time clock in my head. So I was just like, whenever I'm thinking of
Um,
something, it's so weird with writing because you didn't have the idea until you wrote it down.
yeah.
So as I have one thing going or I visualize a scene, it just keeps coming and coming and coming. I'm just trying to jot it all down so I don't forget or miss anything. So yeah, I didn't even have time to think, oh, am I dizzy? I was just in there. I was so laser focused. And I just loved the rush of knowing I had a deadline. The bus is almost done. Or I'm almost at work. I need to get this down. I need to get this down. What I would do at work though, because it was a job at that time where I can sort of phase out, I would phase out while I'm working, thinking about what I stopped on the bus and then what should I do next for tomorrow? And then I get it. Do you know what I do? I'll go to the bathroom, take a pen and paper, and I'll write down the next. So, or if I think of a dialogue, I would write it and put it in my pocket so I don't get called for not. I loved that though. I almost felt like I couldn't write a second book until I go back to my old job and be there again to be able to like phase out. And I'm like, Fatima, you have to find another way. You can't do it this way anymore. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I had the same I had this not quite the same experience, but my job was very um a little more not actually it was sedentary in some way, but I could walk around a lot in different areas. I was on watch a lot for I had to go patrol and review and and so but by myself. And while you're doing
mm,
that, you're just doing kind of menial tasks, really nothing that important. And while I'm doing, my mind's just wandering, as I'm sure yours was too. And I'd have a notepad on me. All I do is note, put it back in, note, put it back in. When I got home, I would transcribe those to the computer and then I would do it again. And I had this huge just flow of ideas. And it was so cool. I've moved to a different job now where I have to use my noodle a lot more.
that's me right now. And it's
Yeah.
so
And my ideas have like stopped. It's terrible. The flow of water is no longer there. And I'm like, I got to really focus on ideas or let my mind wander. So I completely level with you or sympathize with you on the changing of your process.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It really affects it. But you know how my process works now? Before I go to sleep, and I'm like, why? Just before I sleep, my mind starts to wander, and I'm like, oh, I have to get up and write this now. So I'm like, up 2 a.m. and I have work tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, great. But I have to get it down because this is my only time now to wander off mentally.
Yeah.
But for writers, we need that because you have to see the scene before you write it. It's a yeah.
Yeah,
I feel you for that one.
that is absolutely true. You have to see it. Most of the scenes that I have written, I would say all of them, I've had to flush it out a little bit and go, yep, this is how I'm going to do the big stuff. And then you
Mm,
can put in the little nitty gritty stuff as you go, the little
absolutely.
details. But yeah, that you have to have that big framework. Otherwise there's nothing to go on.
Absolutely. I did have a block for a while with the second one, and I spoke to a coworker about it, and he was like, "What's the issue?" I explained the emotion, and he just said one thing, and I thought, "You don't know what you just did for me right now. You just unlocked my block." I could not thank him enough because I was blocked for like 2 months. But one
Oh,
line he just said, I thought, "That's it. That was like eureka." I saw the whole answer. So yeah, blocks can be a nightmare. Oh my gosh, I would not wish it on my worst enemy.
yeah, it's a thing. But I've also had it where like if you are talking to people and you
Mhm.
kind of like, hey, I have a problem, I can't figure it out. Let's just work it out. And you throw out all the bad ideas you've had or any ideas, and all of a sudden you're like, that kind of mentally cleared the block. So
Absolutely.
get putting it out to the universe.
For me, sometimes even talking to someone about my problems, I answer my own questions, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank
Yeah.
you. Goodbye. I've just
Yeah.
solved my own problem.
Yeah. I always say thank you. And like, I didn't do anything for you. You did. You're my sounding board. So
Exactly. You listened or you were just there.
yeah,
Yeah,
you just
absolutely.
need a presence because you can't just sometimes you can't just think about it on your own. You have to, like I
Mm,
said, put it out to the world and let someone listen to it
absolutely.
before the problem becomes evident on how to solve the issue.
Very
So
true.
so for future books, so you have a second one.
Hmm.
You foresee yourself just having a treasure trove of books?
Yes. So initially with this particular project, it's called the Strings Trilogy. So there's going to
Hmm.
be 3 books.
Nice.
And I'm currently working on the second one. And the third one should be out shortly after as well. But after I had this idea initially, I had another one and I thought, oh, I wanted to do that one first. But the problem with that is I have to go dark mentally. I'm just not ready for that yet. So I thought, let's
Oh,
do puppy romance first. I can't do dark just yet because I struggle with watching or reading books like that myself, but it's a great story. And I know with this one, it's gonna hit. It's
yeah.
going to hit. I hope it gets bigger than I even imagine, but I need to be mentally ready to be in that space. So
Mhm.
yeah, but that'll be my next project.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely not romance. I can tell you that much.
So, what do you hope when they do read your books? What do you hope people will get out of your books?
For me, I really hope people can open their minds to looking beyond people's how they look, where they're from, cultural backgrounds, nationalities, things like that. Because the reason I made the characters an interracial couple mainly was because of my experience of dating interracially. It's mind blowing how people react to things like that. Like I've had people call me extreme because I dated people outside race. And I'm like, what? My first experience, and every time I share this, people think I'm exaggerating, and I'm really not. The first time I liked a boy that wasn't from my culture, it was when I was in college, about 18 years old. I just remember when I saw this boy, I looked at the sideburns and I thought, oh, look at the sideburns on that boy. And my eyes was focused on that. And whenever I'd see him, I remember that and I just liked him. So I tagged my cousin, like, oh, that's the boy over there. And she goes, he's not black. And I'm like, I kid you not, I was so shocked. It had not hit me that he wasn't black because I didn't care about that. I was thinking about his sideburns.
Yeah.
I didn't care about anything else. So when I was like, how did I not notice that? Because I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's not that for me. But the more I dated, getting older, the more I saw a lot of like just weird reactions. And funny enough, you would think you get the reaction from the person's culture or from the person's side, but I got it from my side, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And a lot of it, it's not out of like racism or anything. It's just lack of understanding. They haven't seen it enough. They
Right.
don't understand it, and they think it's very strange. And why would you do that? It's
Mm.
just not common. But it's like I had a comment on my page where someone had asked a silly question of, oh, if you didn't know he was black, because I shared the story on my TikTok, and a girl commented, if you didn't know he was black, then what did you think he was? And a friend of mine in an interracial marriage, and she commented the perfect reply, and she said she thought he was human. And I thought, nicely done.
On the
I
nose.
had nothing else to say. He was human. Like,
Yeah.
is that not all that matters? It's crazy to me.
Me too.
So I wanted to educate people to just see that it's a love like any other.
Yeah.
And I also wanted them to feel how that love built and feel and root for these people like you would anybody else and not care about where they're from either. And that's what I hope this book does.
Yeah.
Hopefully opens people's minds to just more than they see, because that's the problem. People focus on what they see in their everyday life. So when something strange happens, like, oh, it's not right. No, you're just not used to it. There's a
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
even like I think the pandemic actually caused a bit of anxiety with just social interactions as well.
absolutely.
I mean, with because I mean I've seen a lot of interracial couples out here in United States quite often. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon at all. So it's just strange. But when you get to at least now since the pandemic, and it's getting better, but at the beginning, people were even having problems just talking to their neighbors, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because they were so afraid of whatever. And then you're not in the room for so long. And then also, I've noticed it was judgment just on that person looks like he's angry. Like what we were talking about earlier, that person looks like he or she is angry. No, they're not. They're just tired. They've had a long day. They're hungry. Go talk to them. And as soon as you break that anxiety and go talk to somebody, you find out that, man, we're really just the same. We just happen to be born in a different location. Yeah, skin color might be a little darker or lighter. Who cares? We're all
Exactly.
this. We're all from Earth. we're all from Earth. We all need the same things on a
Or human,
big scale. We
like the
all
same blood that bleeds in me bleeds in you. And if you needed a
exactly.
transplant, an organ, I can work for your body. Like, stop. It's crazy. It's crazy
Mhm.
to me. But I hope
Yeah,
that can change. Hopefully.
I hope so too. I hope so too. It sounds like from some of the reviews I saw that people definitely. Well, I saw the review from the editor, and the editor was just blown away. It was a very, very nice note. That very what it was your editor a man or a woman?
Be fair, they have a publishing partnership company where they keep the editors anonymous, so you don't
Cool.
really know who they
Oh,
are.
really?
Yes, so I don't even know if it's male or female. They've never met me. I've never met them. They just read my work and then reviewed it.
Wow, that's kind of
Yeah, how
awesome. Kind of a
crazy!
blind read. That's cool.
Exactly. When I saw that message, I remember it was in the morning time. I cried like a baby because the thought I went to was just remembering myself in that classroom, standing for having bad spelling and bad grammar. And to be that girl getting such a review, like it was insane to me.
Yeah.
Even back in college, I remember I thought I was so stupid because I used to always like get bad grades. And my teacher actually sat me down, Tracy Andrews, bless her. She actually has a cameo in my book. I named a teacher, Tracy Andrews, there. Amazing teacher. That woman changed my academic life. Absolutely amazing woman. Honestly. I had a situation where we had the one-on-one and she asked me, Fatima, why do you think you do so bad at school? And I'm like, maybe because I'm just not smart enough. She was like, you'll be shocked in the answer. And I'm like, what is it? You don't proofread your work. I said, what? She was like, yeah, you don't proofread. You would not believe. After I started proofreading my work, I don't know how you guys grade in America, but with ours, we have pass, merit, and distinction, which is
Oh,
like an
okay.
A. Yeah. I had a distinction after that. And I thought, so I had the words, I just wasn't proofreading. Blew my mind. So when I started like approaching learning differently and just saying, how do I learn? How do I take in information? And how do I make myself better? Don't look at yourself as a whole as a problem. How do I fix the problem? And
Yeah.
what am I getting wrong currently? Because it's not like scrapping it up and starting again. It's like having a novel. You don't have to start over again because you have to maybe add a bit more visualization or whatever. You just add bits and remove bits. It's better. Here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a journey.
Yeah.
It's been
That's
even
really cool. Yeah,
after.
just a little bit, just a little that little extra time you took to fix the small things that you just, your first run, you're never going to get perfect. Like we said, no one has show me a first draft that's perfect. I want to see this thing.
When speaking of my first draft, I had before I met my publishing company, I had a editor from Fiverr that was helping me out. And she saw it and she said, Fatima, this is not ready for edit. Like she was my development editor. And she said, no. I was trying to be lazy and do what I did in college and not edit anything. I just gave it to her and said, you fix it. I don't want to do anything. She's like, no, no, no. Go back, make it readable so I can actually give you a proper review. And I'm like, okay, fine. Took it back. I did a lot of work on it. By the time I sent it back to her, at this point, I already have the deal with the partnership a company I was working with, but she was like, no, she still wants to finish her job. And I'm like, okay, fine. Here you go. I got her review back. The first page, she had a few notes. Second page, third page, she had one line. Third chapter, sorry, she had one line. And after that, there was nothing. And I called her and I was like, oh, Abby, what's going on? You didn't really write anything. She was like, oh, I forgot to edit. I was just so into the story, I forgot. I don't know why. The person that told me to go back was so blown away. She was like, when is the second one coming? Because I need to read it. And I'm like, you're my editor. You're supposed to give me a review here. She's like, there's nothing to review. The only notes she gave also made a difference, to be fair, to the final book itself. But absolutely, that was gold to me. The fact that she forgot to edit because she was so into the story. Give me a better compliment. Come
I
on.
I can't. I can't. I literally cannot. That is a gold standard compliment right there from an editor.
Absolutely.
That is so cool.
I
Well,
know, right?
good on you. Good on you.
Now you
Keep
see the
doing stuff
pressure
like
of the
that.
second book.
I
Now you
can
see the
totally
pressure.
see. But as long as you go back and you edit again, you're fine. Just trust in your work, trust that you'll get it done.
That's
And
it.
that's the beautiful thing. Again, you'll have your beta readers and your brother who will be blunt. And your editors who will tell you, hey, this isn't up to your standards. And you can just like, okay, well, what do you think I need to do? But I don't think that'll be a problem. If you love the story enough and you go back and edit,
Mm.
and you proofread,
Ooh,
I think you'll
what
be
fun.
good. I think you'll be fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, any suggestions for the budding writers out there who want to dive in on being an author?
Please just take small steps, I will say. That was so important for me because the whole idea of writing a whole book was daunting. But once I gave myself the small step of an hour every day, an hour became 6 months later, I had a book.
Yeah.
Take small steps. Even if you really want to write a paragraph a day, a sentence a day, take small steps. For example, when I started teaching myself how to learn Korean, it was daunting. How can I learn a whole language? Like, it's crazy. But I thought if I learn a word a day, by the end of the year, I would have learned 365 words.
Yeah.
So just take small steps. It's absolutely possible. You can do it. Believe in your story. You'll be shocked how much people want to actually hear what you have to say. So go for it.
That
Absolutely.
is excellent advice. And I heard a quote from, actually, it was a coworker of mine, and it was something like this. It's people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year.
Like that.
Yeah, I thought that was really just very powerful, because what you said, you didn't take, it didn't encompass your entire day. You still went to work, you still, had meals, you still took care of yourself, and you were on the way. You found a way to plug in, you sacrificed a little entertainment for getting some work done. That's all
Yeah,
you did. That was the only change. And then in 6 months, you had a book. That is so, it's just super powerful. Small tweaks.
absolutely. Small
Small
steps.
tweaks. I love it. So, where can we get a copy of this book that has manifested after some really interesting story, very interesting life? Where can we get a copy of your book?
Currently, it's available for pre-order at Amazon. So yeah, that's where you can get it. It's officially releasing on the 25th of January, 2024. On my mum's birthday, this book is dedicated to her, and I can't wait for the world to read it. My mum she passed away 5 years ago, by the way,
Oh,
from cancer, unfortunately. And one of the big things for her was she couldn't really get an education or do much with her life. So her dream was her kids, and her dream was our dreams coming true. And I remember she said something to me, and she said, Fatima, the world will know my name through you. And for me, if I can do more to have my name out there, to have her name out there, I'm doing the right thing. Her main goal is just us being happy. So even through her passing, I made sure I stayed positive, because the more I smiled, the more I made her dreams come true. So why not?
what was her name?
Her name is Adijat Idowu Alabi.
I will not try to pronounce that right now.
Adijat is just Adijat. Idowu
Adijat.
is a name, yeah, that's given
Okay.
to a person that's born after twins in my culture. They call them Idowu.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
It's
Interesting.
a thing in Yoruba culture, Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
you
cool.
always have it.
Well, her name is out here now, so we're helping preserve her legacy, and you're doing a
You.
great job of doing that too, with getting this book done and dedicating it to her. And it sounds amazing. So, I mean,
Much. I appreciate that.
yes, yes. Well, that's so cool. And do you have a website too they can jump onto?
Yeah, is www.fatimaalabi.com.
Amazing. Very simple, easy, no excuses for you guys. Go get a book. Go get a book. Go pre-order. Go get a pre-order. Because I think this interview will pop off early December.
Okay,
So
perfect.
yeah, so about a month and a half or so, 2 months before the book comes out. So just go buy a book. So yes, do it. Fatima, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending your dinner time hanging out with me and talking about your book.
It's been a pleasure, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your
Anytime.
time.
Thank you very much. And I always love to put this out there for authors to come on. When you get your second book done after your trip to Venice, I know I won't be, right then, but when you do get it done, if you want to do another interview to promote it, I'm happy to take the time to do that.
Well, I'm glad to know that. Guys, you all heard it. If he
Mhm.
rejects me, I'm going to report him.
I will not reject anybody.
By blood.
Yes, we'll have a blood promise, or what do they call that? A
A blood oath.
blood oath. That's way better than promise. Yeah, oath is
Oh, I know,
way
right?
cooler. Way cooler. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the heck out of this. Go check out her book. Go pre-order it. It comes out January 25th,
Yes, it does.
2024. So,
Yeah.
all right, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, stay mighty and keep reading. Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.